Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Indie Pop on the New Age Insiders Network with the last mark standing. Your host, Damian G, and heel Trina herself, the Marquis Smark. What up, Trina?
Hi, guys.
So, Trina, we have a term of the day, a word of the day here for all the New Age Insiders listeners and for the Indie Pop listeners. The word of the day, and pardon me for getting Mr. Rogers on you all, is shindy. Shindie, Shindie. And that is a metaphor or an acronym for, I don't want to say the first part of it, but indie, as in
a poopy, like a poopy indie.
Yes, like a toilet bowl independent wrestling. Oh, forget it. I'll just say it like this. So forgive me, Bill. A shitty indie event.
Yes.
And
Shindy.
yeah, so that term has been thrown around. For those in the independent wrestling circuit, especially with fans like, Hokai and a couple other people. And I had I want to say honor, because it actually was an honor, to go back to the location of my first shindy, which you well know.
Fiesta Pro.
Oh, yeah, at the New York Sportatorium in Deer Park, Long Island. It was a different Fed or a different organization. This was a Next Level Pro Wrestling. It was their Stage 4 event. Myself, Matty Ice, Rick Castle, as well as Andrew Zarian from Mad Men, who was on commentary. We're in the building. MLJ, the ring announcer. And before I even get into it, Emil is one of the hardest working dudes on the independent circuit in terms of being a ring announcer, for being a catalyst to get people to cheer and root on the faces, to serve as a perfect foil for heels. So big shout out to MLJ, because he had to remember a couple of descriptor words for certain wrestlers, and I am thoroughly impressed by the way he was able to do that. He was like the Bruce Buffer of the independent wrestling. He just knew all these ways to describe it, and when I get to the wrestler he was talking about, you'll understand why. So
let me interrupt 1 second and just continue to put him over, because he does commentary for CCW, pretty much a lot of the promotions on the East Coast. He's a great follow on Twitter, great wrestling fan. I mean, like, if you can't sleep at 2 a.m., I guarantee you Emil J is going to be watching like some old WCW match from like 1994 and tweeting about it.
Yeah, he does do that often.
Like, he is an ultra wrestling fan, great ambassador for the sport, and just like all around like cool person. So can't put him over enough at this point.
And to be fair, he does make his job look easy, and I know it's not, and you'll know this firsthand. When we go to Glory Pro, being a ring announcer isn't just saying, who the combatants are.
Yes.
You're involved in the match in your own way. So, at the MLJ, EMILJAY on Twitter, he's a great follow, like Trina said, but I give him the utmost credit for making it look seamless. But I digress. The term shitty indie is, I returned back to my house of horrors, and that is the New York, the NYCC Sportatorium. Now, this show sold about maybe 100 to 110 tickets. There were a lot of the same people wrestlers I see on the East Coast, the Rude Boy Rileys, the David Starrs, the Sonny Kisses, the TJ Marconis, people like that, Smiley, Juba. People you're going to see at House of Glory, you're going to see at Tier 1 Wrestling or, Bree Combination Wrestling. So it had a very familiar feel to it. Manny Martinez always jobs out in the first match, but this time he actually won. So it was...
In the shindies, he wins.
Yeah, no, not even that. He always jobs in shindies too, but this was the first time I've seen him live. And he went over Sonny Kiss. Yeah, and Sonny, as I've talked about on Mad Men and here, is one of the most athletically gifted.
He's a name.
Yeah, he's a name, and he's very showy. That's how I'll say it. So I want you all to look up Sonny Kiss and look up any matches that he was in, because he is always in gimmick, but he's always willing to say thank you when you give him a compliment toward his matches. Like, I was very pleased to see how well he worked. And Matty Ice is a fan of Sunny Kisses for the wrong reasons, but that's another show for another day. I don't want to get him in trouble, but look up a Sunny Kiss match. You know what I'm talking about. But it goes back to what we were saying last week. Check him out. Yeah, it goes back to what we were saying last week about independent wrestling shows being family environments and familial, and it's, you know, you see the same people, and you either get too comfortable where wrestlers go through the motions, and there's a couple that I saw that just went through the motions that they do in every match. I won't mention them by name, but I talked to you about it off air, about one or two people in particular that I just am not sold on, just because I just feel as if they're going through the motions every single match. But let me just tell you the difference between this and the first time I went there. Number one, I knew what to expect going to my first shindy back in the summertime. So I knew that this place, one, didn't serve alcohol. I know, two, the snacks and the food are rather sparse.
Yes. So, you know, these are all characteristics of a shindy, by the way.
Yeah, the food, you know, it's like hot dogs that look like they're 3 days old. And this is not a diss on the New York Sportatorium. No. This is just what I experienced being there multiple times. 2 bathrooms, pretty empty unless everyone moved up to, you know, carry all the to cover all the front row seats.
I have to say, though, 2 bathrooms is an upgrade from IWA Mid-South, which only had 1.
And you had a barn. It's like I actually had like a sportatorium, you know. Oh, and I'd be remiss not to mention the the one small sign to drive into the arena.
Oh God, yeah, that's another characteristic, a difficult to find location.
Oh yeah, no, it's not on Waze. We tried to Waze it coming from the city, and it just wasn't working out.
You're saying it doesn't exist? It's not on the grid?
No, it's on the grid, but it's not in the location they're saying it's in. Like, you actually have to go into the seedy looking factory area.
Yes,
you know?
Again, another characteristic of indie shows. I love this. We can make a list, because I typically get lost because they're always in the, you know, like weird places.
Yeah, and we got lost the first time. Rick and I got lost the first time, but this time we knew which way we were going. The doors, again, weren't open, even though they were advertised to open at 6:30.
Yes, that's the other. They never start on time.
Yeah, shindies will never start on time. And let me just reiterate, this is not us dissing independent wrestling. This is us.
We love this stuff.
Yeah, this is stuff we experience, and it's funny for us, you know.
Right.
And me being, you know, I guess becoming a veteran of attending these shows, I know what to look out for. Newbies don't, i.e. Matty Ice and his brother. This is his first independent wrestling show, and because Matty Ice had the bar set so high for him when we went to Breed Combination Wrestling, you know, with the ring not being there on time, and you know, the New York State Athletic Commission cutting it short, like, he didn't know what to expect. So Matt was like, yeah, this is awesome. And yeah, it reached every single shindy expectation I have ever thought to have and ever will have.
Checked all the boxes.
It checked every single box. It started with Emil cutting, you know, his ring announcer promo and the mic going out, and that tends to happen. The audio gets weird. The music doesn't start properly for introductions. Wrestlers in the first match leave shortly thereafter because they have to drive to another location. Yeah, exactly. And I know where they were going. They were going to the Elks Lodge, you know, to work another event for Breed Combination Wrestling. But let me paint the picture. So I'm there sitting, and I meet up with Andrew Zarian of Matt Men, who was doing color commentary. And he introduces me to a former WWE Women's Champion, and I was very honored that she took the time to at least spend 10 seconds, 15 seconds talking to me, and me thanking her for, you know, for the work she did and for giving back, because here's a person that has given her all to professional wrestling, and she still attends these matches. You know,
she really does.
And I've seen her up and down the East Coast. Like, she really loves the business, and she's one of the most nicest people. I don't think anyone's ever had a bad word to say about her in and out of wrestling. So I was very honored to actually meet her, and she was off on the side, you know, watching the events unfold.
You haven't said her name yet.
And I'm not a name dropper. You know that. And we walked that line. Okay. You and I walked that line, especially on Last Mark Standing, of not being name droppers for the sake of just dropping names.
We tried. Right. Yeah. Exactly. But I will say that I can agree with Damian in all these kind words, because she owns a restaurant or co-owns a restaurant in Chicago that is wrestling themed, the Squared Circle. Mm-hmm. So her ex-husband, they I think when they started they were married, but now they're divorced. But I mean, it's one of the greatest places, and everything I've heard about her I've never met her. I wish, like, every time I've been to that place I got a chance to meet her, but I didn't. But everybody just loves her. Fantastic.
And just by you guys listening to the clues, you can pretty much look up who this person was. So just look it up on Google. You know, this person owns a restaurant. They're a former WWE Women's Champion, been in TNA before. So this is, but still, just seeing these people, and it's not even like it's a has-been, because she still works. You know what I mean? And she still works at a high level, because she looked ageless. Like when I met her, I'm thinking, this woman did not age a day. Holy crap. You know, so that goes to show, once you take care of your body, and even after the limelight has kind of worn off, you can still look good for your age. So big props to her. So the event starts, and I'd be remiss to tell you if I really remembered what the first match was. I think it was the Sunny Kiss match against Manny, and he kept the beanie on for most of it, because Manny Martinez likes to wrestle with a beanie on his head, because he's wearing dicky pants, a wife beater. You could just picture that, you know.
Yeah.
And the beanie comes off once in a while. It's like he loses his superpowers. It's just so, you know. But anyway, and I'm playing it back in my head. I'm thinking, wow, that really stunk. You know, not the match itself, just knowing that these people getting their $25 to $50 for a match, you know, and it's worth it to them, and they're pursuing their dream. But like, to see them as the quote unquote curtain jerker at a place that only had like 105 people, it makes me a little sad. You know what I mean? But
again, that is another characteristic of indie wrestling. I mean, you will attend events where there's like 100 people and they're legends there. You know, and that's just how it is sometimes. This is how the indies work, you know?
Like, in your experience, have you experienced shindies like this that fit this description?
Yeah, I have. I mean, the very first show that I ever went to was probably, you could consider, I feel really bad now because I've worked with them. Anarchy Pro is a tiny promotion, you know, outside of Chicago, inside Chicago. I mean, AAW is the one we talk about all the time, but Anarchy Pro is pretty tiny. Again, like probably 100 to 150 people. But that was the first indie I went to because Joey Ryan was there. So it was like, you know, Joey Ryan, this is right in between season 2 and season 3 of Lucha Underground. You know, before the proposal went viral, before all this, you know, so he probably wasn't the Joey Ryan we all know now, but definitely like popular enough to not be, you know, the Berwyn like lounge, you know, whatever, with
the Berwyn Eagles Hall.
Yes, the Berwyn Eagles Hall with like 150 people. You know, so that stuff happens all the time because these guys, you know, like all they want to do is fill dates. And so you can have somebody go from like Evolve or like AAW or PWG, like a bunch of people we know are going from PWG to Glory Pro. Mike, you know, Big Mike's going to do that. So you have these instances where you have shows where there's like maybe 100 people and someone that you consider like a legend or somebody that's like, you know, A+ a blue chipper could be like holding it down. Like that's sort of the beauty of it. It is a little sad. It does get really sad. I mean, anytime I went from seeing Tay Dreamer wrestle with Hacksaw Jim Duggan in a baseball park to seeing House of Hardcore and him running a show. And so it's like, you know, half the people didn't even know who he was at the baseball stadium. Like there was like not a line, you know, like usually there's a line to like see like some of the legends and it's like no line. He was just on his phone and I walked up to him and I like marked out. Yeah, I mean, you know, and there was a part of my childhood that died a little bit watching Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Tommy Dreamer take bumps in a ring in a baseball field. So, you know, but But at the same time, it's like, this is part of the hustle. You know, like, you got to do the small stuff to do the big stuff, and vice versa. And, you know, if you ever get to go to a House of Hardcore show, it's amazing to see him in boss mode, because he really, he runs that shit. Like, people, like, nobody crosses Tommy Dreamer. Like, when it comes to any, like, in life, in business, like, you know, like he runs a tight ship. So it's really pretty awesome to see that he still, like, will work a show in a baseball field, but then yet, like, put on a massive production, which, you know, when you get a chance to go to House of Hardcore, I feel like is just one step below WWE.
Right.
House of Hardcore is really legit.
Oh yeah, no, it definitely is one of the more legit independent wrestling federations out there. So definitely understand that, definitely have an appreciation for it. But it goes back to the moniker of just, you know, it's a shindy, quote unquote. And
yes.
You know what I mean? It's one of those things where
it sounds like this is like our bastard child or something. like we hate it and love it at the same time. I don't know if I said that right. I feel like that's probably offensive.
We love it, but it's one of those things where if you don't understand it, you're thinking, yep. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Right. Exactly. And it's weird. The casual fan, like, will weirdest things, you know, because, like you were saying, Matty Ice and his brother didn't think any, you know, they were having a great time. They thought it was fantastic. And I've taken some of my coworkers to Anarchy Pro, and some of the most, like, stiff, boring people that you would never expect that would enjoy wrestling loved it. Specifically the hardcore matches. Like, and there was, like, a deranged clown in the main event, and they were just, like, hitting each other with, like, barbed wire. And this, like, he's a director at my company. He, like, never laughs. And, like, had the best time watching this show. So, I mean, you never know. Like, for us, because we know so much about wrestling, and we do attend a lot of shows, and we cover wrestling, sometimes it's hard to ignore the bad. Sometimes you have to go with, like, a pure heart, a pure soul to a show, you know, and see them just, like, mark out over stuff that, you know, is, like, not that great. So, you know, this is why you introduce people to indie wrestling.
No, it's true. And
like,
let me reiterate, this isn't all doom and gloom to people. You know, I'm not saying this because I didn't have a good time. I actually had a great time. And there's a couple of people, as you all know, on Indie Pop, I like to reference people to keep your eyes on. I've talked about Sonny Kiss. I've talked about TJ Marconi.
Ken Broadway.
But at this show in particular, it was someone I've never seen before, and I was thoroughly impressed with, and it's Alexander James. He was in a tag team match with TJ Marconi as his partner, and they were called Team Step Brothers. He's called the Young Lion. At Young Lion A James, real nice guy to talk to after the match, but he's a cross between a young stunning Steve Austin, but he carries himself like Lord William Regal back in the WCW days.
Ooh, I love this already. I totally want to meet this dude.
And he was one of the most nicest guys. Like, I told him how well his match was worked. You know, he didn't like I was some mark, you know. He was open to just hearing me compliment what worked. You know, and TJ Marconi, as always, who I know and knows me, and they worked a really good heel tag team match. But he was the guy, you know, Alexander James was the guy that I'm really looking forward to seeing more of, because he carried himself, I don't want to say like a big timer, but he carried himself like he belonged there.
Like, exactly.
Like he knew that this is just a necessity, but he was going to give his all, even though this is a shindy, and he wasn't going to go through the motions. And not one point did I see that he went through the motions.
Right.
So if you can take a look, check him out if you can. Alexander James at Young Lion A James on Twitter. Just a real good worker. The tag match was great. And then, you know, they appeared later in the show in the main event, and I'll get to that. But there was just some wrestlers that will remain nameless. They went through the motions. I wasn't impressed by. Just nothing worked for me. For these couple of people. And as I said before, we talked off air, and it's just sometimes that happens. You know, they work so many dates that they'll pull a Cody Rhodes and just go through the normal spots, you know, the 5 moves of doom, you know, the Kevin Nash, you know, 5 moves of a career, you know, elbow strike, big boot, you know, jackknife forearm. That's it, you know, and blown quad. That's what this one person, you know, similarly speaking, that's what this one wrestler who admittedly I'm trying to like, because all intents and purposes is a good person outside of the ring, very positive, but it's just not working for me. A person I was pleasantly surprised by, and I told you this off air, was David Starr. You know who David Starr is, and a lot of people need to know who David Starr is, because if you like old school heel tactics like stalling for time, talking trash to the crowd, thumb to the eye, you know, he was in a match with Rude Boy Riley, and I was thoroughly impressed by David Starr. It was my first time seeing him live. I'd seen him before on streams, and I've seen him before on YouTube, but seeing him live and seeing him work the old school heel mentality.
Yeah, right. And he's got a presence, you know.
Yes.
It's cool. He like lives the gimmick. It's pretty great when he's out in the ring.
He's the opposite of Anthony Gangone for me.
Oh God, more Gangone hate mail.
And the funny part was, I was expecting to see Gangone on the card, and I was told after the event that a lot of people who were supposed to work the card didn't show up. So maybe he was supposed to be there. Kind of glad he wasn't, because I didn't want to have an unpleasant interaction with him.
Yeah, you know? Yeah. I mean, well, so the funny thing about David Starr, I think they say this about actors too, is that like the best ones are the ones that seem to just transform. And it's like, you know, he's so unassuming, like out of the ring, not in character. But then once like he's in wrestler mode, fantastic. Like you can, like I said, you can feel like the presence of a heel, like an old school heel. You know, and like, that's a cool feeling, you know, like when you're watching like a performance or art or something like that, when you kind of get like pulled into the performance, like that's a cool moment. And he definitely does it. There are a lot of people that really, like Sami Callihan does it for me. Like, I think he's pure evil when he's in the ring. Like, it's really terrifying. So, you know, that's the cool thing. Like, we got to support these people, because yeah, it's hard. Damian's right. Like, a lot of guys put in, you know, they're going town to town, and it's hard to have that same energy night after night after night. So we have to support the people that still put in like 200%, even if they had like 6 shows that week and traveled to like 15 different states or whatever, you know, like, David Starr just came from Germany. Yeah. He was there for a couple weeks. And, you know, like, I know a couple guys this week, who are going to be in Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I think like 4 or 5 different states, like all over the map, like not even like next door, or like 2 or 3 hours, like each drive is like 12 or 14 hours.
Yeah. I can't.
Yeah. Right. And then, yeah. So, I mean, you know, like it's possible for people to have like an off night, you know, and it's hard. But the thing is, if you keep going to shows, you'll start to see a pattern. You'll see who maybe is just phoning it in one night, but usually gives 200%. Or you'll see people who are just constantly performing, like they never turn it off, and they're just like go go go. And those are the ones you want to push, obviously. So, you know, it's tough. Damian didn't say the people that were a little unimpressed, but he was unimpressed with. But you'll see it. You go to enough shows, you can tell like when someone's just sort of like going through the motions or whatever, or you know, maybe they're tired. I mean, you know, that's the beauty of it. You get to follow them around and see the progression.
Right. And in my case, I got to see TJ Marconi work heel for the first time. Yes. Every time I've seen him, he's worked face. So to see him in this cocky, attitudinal bully, you know, the bully role, and he was they were team stepbrothers, him and Alexander James, they were team stepbrothers. So I thought they played their roles very well. And during the intermission, I was talking to both of them, and I told TJ, I said, this is the first time I've seen you work heel. And then he shed some light on something for me, where he said something to the effect of, when he's working in the Northeast or certain territories in the Northeast, he is only a face. Well, when he goes to other locales, he is strictly a heel. And I found that interesting. It's very it's very meta for me to be able to see that and hear that. Like, yeah, when I go to so and so, I'm a bad guy. Yeah. When I'm here, I'm a good guy.
Right. I mean, look, this goes back to wrestling being art. You know, like this is what it is. This is why certain movies are released like in the summer versus being released like in the, you know, the winter, Christmas time. You just got to play to your crowd. And so that's a smart performer, smart worker, knowing that like people really respond to me as a heel here and they respond to me as a face here. And you just modify your character and, you know, you work out all the kinks. Like this is what indie wrestling is for. You know, like if you do have a dream to make it to WWE, it's hopefully because you had years and years of making towns, like all different kinds of crowds and being a heel, being a face and working out all the different, you know, aspects of your personality. So it's pretty cool.
Definitely. And for those who don't know, TJ Marconi is on Twitter at TJ Marconi. You can book him at tj-marconi.com, and he's not paying me to say that. I'm literally just putting him over because I enjoy his work, you know, being 6'6", 300, but you know, to be fluid in the ring, to be entertaining, to be able to vacillate between heel and face so effortlessly. It's pretty damn cool to see. And it goes back to what you and I like to talk about in terms of like progression. The progression of a performer. When they're first starting out, they could be a little rough around the edges, and then as they keep working, just like us broadcasters, you know, we start off rusty. As we keep going and keep garnering more attention and more practice reps, it becomes a lot crisper. So to double back to the whole thing with David Starr, him and Rude Boy Raleigh definitely had the match of the night. Because they weren't even the main event. That's the funny part. They were the setup man to the main event, and the main event was Smiley, who I've talked about from House of Glory. You know, yeah, again, and you know who Smiley is. You know, he's like the crazy masked luchador.
So, this is how much of a shindy this was. David Starr, who's an international champion, was not the main event, and Smiley was the main event.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Against Juba, Juba, who is like the bodyguard. Who is the bodyguard to Anthony Gangone at House of Glory.
Oh, come on, guys.
I'm dead serious. I am dead serious. And this is what made me wonder why this was the main event. Because TJ Marconi, Team Step Brothers, comes out, cuts a promo during the match because they're saying the match is so bad that they want to come out and talk shit during the match, kind of thing. You know, and they're bossing around the staff that works at the New York Sportatorium to get them popcorn, to get them soda. And it may not have been this match, but it was at some point during this altercation. And here's the treat. And I told you this off air, and you know, I hate praise. You know, I hate this kind of feedback. And this is how much you know I hate it, because I didn't even know they were talking about me. So in the middle of his heel promo, TJ Marconi says, "Oh, what up, Salty?" You know, because my name is Salty Damian G. And I didn't even realize he was talking about me. It wasn't until
you were watching wrestling. You were fully engrossed in the
wrestling. I was fully engrossed in the ring, and then I'm like turning around, like, who the hell is he talking about? Who else is Salty here? That's gimmick infringement, you know, like I was getting heated until Rick Castle kind of he smacks me and says, "Dude, he's talking to you." And I went, "Oh, really? Oh, my bad. Oh, what up, TJ?" You know, like it was just so awkward for me because I'm so not used to being recognized by a wrestler. And it's just like, "Oh, what up, Salty?" And I'm like, "Who? Oh, me? Oh,
yeah.
Thanks." You know. But all in all, it was a decent show. And one of the best parts was talking to Andrew Zarian at the end of it all. And you know, he really showed me around, introduced me to a few people, showed me some production stuff. And you know me, I love how it works, you know, and let me just say this, for a quote unquote shindy, their production value was real good. They had a production truck. They had actual like real equipment to live stream, you know. So there was some money put into this, you know, production wise. So it wasn't like you know, they're live streaming on Twitter or Facebook with a camera phone. You know, they took their paces with this and really wanted to put forth a really good, solid block of programming. And I think in that realm, they succeeded.
Yeah, all around show. I mean, that's really what you want to. It's tough. It's really difficult to put on like a top to bottom stacked card. That doesn't happen in boxing. That doesn't happen in MMA. And so, if you can at least give an overall good show, like that's the best you can do. I love that, actually. That makes sense to me that they would have that match at the end, because it just puts TJ Marconi over more than if he, was just the main event, if that makes sense. Because you get to see like more of his character development, and it just, it's something WWE would do. And we would all question it and be like, oh, WWE is so stupid to put Ellsworth as the main event, blah, blah, blah. But, like it's all setting up other things and putting other people over. So now it makes sense to me. Like before I was poo-pooing it, but that makes sense.
Right. And that's what it is. It's characters it's a show. So you want your actors, quote unquote, to be involved in the show. And I felt they accomplished something real legitimate for a shindy, and then there were other people who were being put over by the actual organization that I was not familiar with, that I need more time to really analyze it. One thing I did not enjoy was there was no women's matches.
Yeah.
That made me mad.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough. I mean, you're not going to get a lot of good, female wrestlers coming out to these smaller shows and things like that. And then sometimes I've gone to shows where there are women in the back, but they're there for like character angles. Like a lot of the time, this is something pretty common with a lot of the smaller indies. A lot of the women just come out to get fired. Like, it's weird. Like,
what?
Yeah, it's weird. Like, that's the angle, is that like they'll come out and take the mic and they'll be like, I should have had a match tonight, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm a big star, blah, blah, blah. And then the promoter will go into the ring and be like, I'm tired of your bitching, you're fired. Like, I've seen that many, many times. It's really strange. Like, like you're not really going to see great women's matches unless I think you're at a bigger promotion. And so sometimes it's like, oh, some female wrestlers are riding with the guy wrestlers and they happen to be at the show. Let's use you in an angle. We don't have anybody for you to wrestle, but we'll use you in an angle. So, I mean, sadly, that's how I see them utilized more often in the shindies, in the smaller promotions.
Yeah. And there was probably only one female, and she was a valet, and she made one or two appearances, and I'm ashamed to admit this, Trina, as you know, I don't like to act like a typical dude, but it was sort of like throwing something out that you hadn't seen all day. And it's like, holy crap, a woman. Wow. I was so taken aback by it. And she was rather attractive. And I'm just thinking, wait, there's women here? Holy crap.
Yeah. Right. Which I feel like that's what it is. Like, if there's ever a woman involved in one of these shitty indies and these smaller shows, it's to remind everybody that women exist in the world, like during that 2 or 3 hours that you're watching wrestling.
And the funny part is that I was immediately like smitten, because she was kind of like a rocker girl, and like, she looked like she shops at Hot Topic, and for some reason that works for me. In certain aspects. So I was just like enamored, and to the point where Rick is like smacking me in the back of the head. He's just like, hey, focus on the ring. And I was like, leave me alone, dude. Go
There's a chick here.
Like, I have to be a typical dude for 5 seconds. Like, leave me alone.
Right, exactly. I haven't seen a woman in 3 hours.
Like, leave me alone. Let me live. Oh, and there was one other thing that I noticed was a trend again. You special needs people in the audience. Again.
Yeah. We will eventually address that. We're doing our research, and we're trying to be very diligent and intelligent about covering that aspect of indie wrestling. But that is something that both Damian and I have noticed, especially at some of the smaller places. You'll have special needs people, like maybe like retirement home, just people like it seems like they bust in. Like who had assistance getting to the show. And so, we're trying to get to the bottom of it. So that's why we haven't really talked about it yet. So there'll be a show forthcoming about that. But just know that that's a thing. And sometimes, at some of the shows, I went to one show, the one that was like in the middle of Missouri, like 2 hours away from Kansas City. There was one kid who was special needs. but he goes to every show and he would just start fights with the wrestlers. And he got really close to like throwing hands with one of the wrestlers, you know? So these are the things, like sometimes maybe if you see like something rowdy happening at a show, like might not necessarily be what you think it is.
Well, that's what I told you that one time when I went to Bree Combination Wrestling, the woman in the infamous leopard print pajamas. She got kicked out by touching Darius Carter, you know, like smacking him. And her fiance went livid after she was ejected. But I think it's safe to say she fits the mold of what I'm describing here. And I'm trying to be as sensitive as humanly possible because I myself in special needs that a lot of people don't know. I qualify in the spectrum. So I'm trying to be sensitive here, but that's something that we've seen a lot. I've seen it. Rick's seen it. You have. And I don't want to be that guy that says, you know, like, oh, they don't belong. I want them to enjoy the show. I want everyone to enjoy the show.
No, I mean, there are, you know, for
they
all
cross
the
line,
praise,
you know?
yeah, well, and for all the praise that we heap on indie wrestling and the marking out that we do, you know, some of the bad stuff comes up every once in a while, like the uncomfortable stuff or whatever. I think we tweeted about it, I think earlier today, was that because somebody asked me if they'd ever seen people steal like money, like other wrestlers steal money from each other at the merch tables and things like that, referring to SmackDown. I said, no, I've never seen that. Guys are pretty good, you know, wrestlers are pretty good about protecting each other's territory. And if like someone's merch table's unattended and somebody's like going to steal something, they'll stop that person, you know, like everyone's pretty protective of each other. But what I did tell people is like, I've seen several instances of promoters not paying wrestlers, shorting them on what they were going to pay them. And so, you know, like there's a dark side, there's some weird stuff. You know, one day maybe we'll get our friend Sean Arleans on the show, and he has a lot to say about, there's a couple promotions in our area here that treat the wrestlers pretty poorly. And yeah, it's kind of a mess when you go to those shows. So you have people fighting and it's just, you know, it's not all like cupcakes and dandelions and, you know, whatever at wrestling shows. Sometimes they're shitty. They're shindies. So.
And it goes back to the word of the day, shindies.
Yes, exactly.
Like I said, it's not all doom and gloom. It was an enjoyable experience. Oh, and I'd be, again, remiss to not mention a personal favorite of yours and mine, Maxwell Jacob Feinstein. Yeah. Big fan. He worked one of the opening matches, like the Battle Royal, because he had to work another show in Queens, so he was part of the opening matches. But that dude is always working. That dude
so crazy.
Is always smarky. He's always smarmy. He's always a douche, and I love it and I appreciate it.
Look, and I am telling you guys, I swear on my grandmother's grave or whatever. When I met him earlier, like last summer, we're talking 6 months ago, that was not in his character development. Like he was just like, hey, I'm a young wrestler, like whatever, buy my merch. And he's completely transformed into this top-notch heel who is always selling, always working on Twitter, like in person at the bar after the show. Like that dude is like healing out 24/7.
Yeah. He applies his craft wherever he goes, and there's something to be said about something like that. You know, a person like that who's able to hone their craft so well that you don't know if they're turning it off or not.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and if you ever, you know, cross his path, Damian sees him all the time. He is a nice kid. He's a good guy for, you know, like for all the heelish stuff that he does. I promise you, good kid, just a really great worker.
Yeah. And one more person, let me put over really quick. Colossal Mike Law. I've seen him at least 6 times. He's entertaining because he's delusional. He's entertaining because he acts as if he's quote unquote colossal, but he's my size.
Oh, I like this. This is an old school gimmick. I love it.
Yeah. And there's a couple of people on the independent circuit who run this gimmick, but no one does it with such grace and dignity as he does.
I like it.
When I was at Bree Combination Wrestling, I saw him work a whole match with a tie. Like he wore a tie.
Huh.
And this time he had like one of those old school 1996 Chris Jericho jackets.
I love this. There's so many layers to this character.
Yeah.
How fantastic.
And he is delusional because he's colossal. So he's always trying to choke slam big dudes, and it never works out in his favor. But he's very entertaining. He's got great fundamentals. I'm very pleased to have seen him the amount of times I have. So that's another person that I'm really impressed by. I'm looking to see more improvement from, to be quite honest with you.
Well, so I'm so excited and jealous all the time when we record the show, because there are so many wrestlers on the East Coast that you get to see regularly that I've never seen. It's funny because Damian's like, oh, if you want to book TJ, I'm not just putting it over, blah, blah, blah. I'm glad, because I want someone in the Midwest to book TJ Marconi, please. Because I can't make it to the East Coast, that's way out of my 14-hour driving distance, limit. So, we talk about this stuff, like, obviously, like, he's a friend of the show, but we want you to book him in other places so that people can see him who've never gotten a chance to see him. I've seen clips, but I want to see him wrestle in person. I want to meet the guy. I want to be like, oh, Damian's my partner. And and he just never, he's always on the East Coast, either Northeast or Southeast. And so please, so AEW, somebody in the Midwest, please book TJ Marconi.
And let me just say for the audience again, we're not being paid by him to say this. He's not greasing our palms or anything like that. He's not a sponsor. I just think, and he's a real good dude outside of the ring. He does stuff for charity all the time. So, with me, that's a big deal. When people do charitable acts outside of their day-to-day work, for me is a big plus as a human being. So a guy who, like me, who connects to people really well, can appreciate stuff like that. Right. So by all means, please book TJ Marconi. Please book Colossal Mike Law. Book Maxo Jacob Feinstein. Book all these people that we're putting over. Before we get out of here, before we get out of here, we have a bit of an admission to make to the audience. So let me set the stage for people. Trina and I have been doing our shows, the Last Mark Standing and this show for a while now, and we've developed a bit of a reputation. We were that show that is different, that has a different take, but what that winds up doing is it gets people to meet us in the real world that we're not really ready to meet. If you follow the Last Mark Standing at lastmarkstanding.com, you'll know that Trina and I suffer from extreme social anxiety. Now, I know what you're thinking. I know you're probably thinking, wait a minute. How are two people who go to wrestling events constantly, who are at the forefront of the shindy, indie, locale.
Right. And we're so open about our lives.
Are scared shitless to meet wrestling fans, at events. And it goes to what we've said. Wrestling for me, and I can speak to for Trina about this. Wrestling for us is therapeutic. It is a way to overcome our severe introvert, empathy, ridden selves, and the paralyzing nature that fandom can sometimes present for us. We normally don't do this together, but this Saturday in Bronx, New York, for Battle Club Pro, as well as Wrestler Lab, Trina and myself, along with Hokai and Tim and a few other people, Rick Castle, Matty Ice, we will be attending Battle Club Pro together.
Yeah. That we haven't attended an indie together ever. Oh my God.
And we're scared shitless. I won't
even get to talk to you. There's too many other people there that we have to talk. We won't get to even talk to each other. It'll be like our wedding. We'll be saying hi to so many other people. We won't even get to spend any time together. Probably because there's all these people that are showing up from the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey area, and I'm fucking terrified because it gets weirder and weirder. It's like that thing where I've known a lot of these people online for almost a year now, if not more than a year, and I've never met them in person. And so and they know so much about me and I know so much about them. And then you have to meet in person, and that, and then the 10 minutes after you meet, and all of these weird things that people with social anxiety go through in their heads. And so I'm pretty terrified. I'm excited. but mostly terrified. I can't wait to see and meet these people and just watch wrestling with my friends and stuff like that. But, you know, all this build up to it. Like I started getting anxious about it last Friday. I think I tweeted last Friday. I'm already anxious, like a week before, and I'm already anxious about it because, you know, because people are tweeting me. They're like, oh, I can't wait to meet you. This is going to be great, blah, blah, blah. Like, this is going to be so much fun. So there's a lot of like anxiety there, not just like meeting new people, but then like anxiety to like make it a fun event, you know, like, because people are expecting it to be crazy, you know, like, and to be awesome and wrestling party in the Bronx and all this different stuff. And I'm like, that's a lot of pressure.
So, it really is, man. It's to the point where me and you are just like, I need an adult, you know?
Right. Exactly. Like, can we go in disguise? Like, what? Like, still go, but like not as ourselves. Like I don't know. I'm really kind of scared. For as much as we preach about wrestling family and all this different stuff, at the end of the day, we're still like two people with social anxiety, and this stuff is still scary to us. So be nice, please.
I was gonna say, please be nice, because no, I don't want to be, I don't want to be that guy, because I'm not an asshole. Trina knows I'm not an asshole, but I don't do well with meeting people off the cuff like that, especially if. And this happened to Rad Pitt, when he met me at Evolve. I'm like, who?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, it took us a second. I'm like, wait, people know me? I kind of like my anonymity, but.
Right. I know. And the thing is, it's funny because I go back and forth. It doesn't necessarily get easier with each show or the longer that this goes on. I've had social anxiety for 34 years, and I still, before every show, still get a little nervous about like people I'm going to see and things like that. And it's a strange world that we've cultivated. It's very positive in many ways. Just be mindful that there are people out there who this is still really, nerve-wracking to them to go out in public and attend a show. I know people who cover wrestling extensively who have not been to a live show, either WWE or Indy, in a couple years because of social anxiety. So just keep that in mind. When you go to these things, obviously there's a great familial feel to it. Everybody's really supportive and everyone wants to share their love of wrestling. Just be mindful how you approach people. Like, some people, this is terrifying for them. So, look at it that way.
And I'm looking at the card now, and it's located, for those that don't know, Battle Club Pro will be Saturday, January 21st. Doors open at 6:30. Drew Galloway is going to be there. It's at 940 Garrison Avenue at The Point, Bronx, New York, 10474. Eventbrite.com/Battle Club Pro Fight Forever tickets. If you want tickets to the show, it's $20. If you buy the $40 ticket, you get early entry and you get to take a picture free with Drew Galloway included in your order. But we have Drew Galloway. We got Rude Boy Riley going up against Bad Apple Matt McIntosh, who I saw for the first time this weekend. I want to punch him in the face, so he did a good job. You got your friend and Hokai's friend, Desmond Xavier, going up against Shane Strickland.
All the Ohio boys are going to be
there. The Christ, is going to be there. Oh, Mike Law, Colossal Mike Law is going to be there, so you'll see him for the first time. Maxwell Jacob Feinstein will be there. Mike Verna.
This is going to be a reunion.
Yeah, it's going to be. There's a lot of people that we both know, and Myron Reed.
You're going to finally meet the kid.
Hot fire Myron Reed versus Zachary Wentz.
Oh God, that's going to be a crazy match.
It's going to be fun. So again, eventbrite.com, Battle Club Pro Fight Forever tickets, $20 tickets, $40 gets you early entry, and
Saturday night.
Saturday night,
if it's drivable, like a couple hours, like wrestling party in the Bronx Saturday night. Like I'm staying over. I'm leaving the next day. So I think. Like Hokai is promising people that there's going to be a party. He's not terrified because he's just like, oh yeah, we're going to do some hood rat shit. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means. What that means? Trey Miguel was one of the Ohio guys. He's coming out too. So if you're in the area, come out to Battle Club Pro because this is a young promotion, and I think Wrestle Lab is even more. Very, very green. So this is new for a lot of people who are running this, and so to have a good turnout and have so many people be enthusiastic about it has been huge for them. And so that's part of what's made the build up so huge, because they're excited that we're excited.
Yeah.
And then now suddenly it's a thing, and like Damian and I are like, what did we get ourselves into? So
yeah, to be fair, we've done a good job.
We've
done a good job of promoting this with everyone else in the Wrestle fam. You know, like this has been talked about for a month and a half now, and just I'm really excited. You know, Wrestlers Lab is it's their first. I think it's one of their first, if not their first show, and they're the pre-show before Battle Club Pro, the hour before. So I've never seen Wrestlers Lab before. So I'm very interested in seeing what they bring to the table, because let's be honest here, where they start now, they can start out in a shindy. They can make their way up the road, you know, go to House of Glory, go to, you know, Rockstar, go to any of these other independent promotions down the road, PWG. But you could say you saw them, and you saw them in the Bronx.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing. Like Wrestle Circus, for example, in Texas is an example of one of those promotions that just grew super quickly. They're only a year old, and they're putting on crazy shows down in Austin.
I plan on going soon, by the way.
Right, exactly. I mean, people from the East Coast are flying to these shows. And like I said, that's an example of a promotion that's still pretty young. I mean, PWG is 13, 14 years old. AAW, same thing. A lot of these promotions have been around for a decade, and someone like, you know, Wrestle Circus, not even a year, and they're pulling great numbers. It's crazy.
And I plan on going, hopefully in March, I can go to Wrestle Circus, because February I'm booked. That's when we're going to Glory Pro. But there's a lot of independent stuff for people to look into, for them to immerse themselves into. And I hope this show, you know, Indie Pop on the New Age Insiders Network can really illuminate any questions people may have. You could tweet me at Dare to be Damian, tweet Trina at the Marky Smart. We are the Last Mark Standing at Last Mark Podcast. Trina, before we get out of here, you got anything else?
Yeah, I want to break some news really quick. Yeah, we don't break news on this show very often, but Indie Power Rankings actually just put David Starr as their #1 indie wrestler right now.
No surprise.
So and he's a 2-time #1 independent wrestler. So this is his 2nd time. And if you listen to our show last week or the week before, PWG tickets for February 18th go on sale next Thursday. That was just announced this evening.
Okay. And for who you referenced just now, David Starr, you can find him at theproductds.com for booking. He's at Twitter, I believe, at theproductds as well. Apparently he's got a match signed with friend of the network, apparently Matt Riddle, coming up soon. Or
hopefully we're trying to make it happen. I mean, that's the interesting thing, because I saw it floating around, and the funny thing is David Starr didn't even tag Riddle, which is I'm like, do you need us to tag him for you? So, you know, like it just was one of those instances where you thought that maybe the match had happened already or whatever, and it just never has. I mean, that's kind of the thing that Big Mike is trying to do with Glory Pro, is to do first time ever matches. So more breaking news. Glory Pro announced their 2nd show of the year in May.
Oh, I know.
And one of the this is not even the main event, it's a special attraction match. Is going to be Big Mike versus Pentagon Jr., right?
Yep.
Did I get that right? Yeah.
You got that right.
Yeah.
Pentagon Jr.
So, I mean, that's first time ever match. And those two have been around forever. Like, why have they not wrestled before? So, you know, so this is the thing. Like, this is why we keep putting names out there, to put matchups like this together and, like, you know, give people more exposure. And it's crazy to me that Big Mike and Pentagon have never wrestled before, but they will in May. And that's for the first time ever at Glory Pro, the 2nd show.
And I've never seen Pentagon Jr. wrestle before. So
see, and that's the thing. Like you get to see TJ Marconi all the time. You get to see all these people. I see Pentagon like every month. So I see him a lot. Like because he's at AAW a lot. He's one of their like top guys. And so this is the thing. Let's get people booked other places, and so we can see like each other's favorites, and you know, like you can be like, oh, I'm friends with Damian, I'm friends with Trina, and then everybody, you know, we're just a bigger family. It's awesome.
And that's what we've always tried to do at the Last Mark Podcast, and then here, you know, on Indie Pop, on New Age Insiders. You know, they've welcomed us with open arms, and they've taken us as two of their own. You know, look at all the people who are associated with New Age Insiders who want to meet us, you know, who want to hang out with us and watch events with us. So we owe this pretty much to all you guys. You know, I say this all the time, and it's not waxing poetic. Without you, there's no us. So thank you so much for putting up with us, and for the Last Mark Standing fans who listen to Indie Pop and vice versa, who listen to Last Mark Standing. Thank you so much, and we'll see you hopefully Saturday night for Battle Club Pro. So come out to the Bronx. It's not that bad, I promise.
Wrestling party in the Bronx.
And we promise it's not that bad. So hopefully we'll see you soon, guys. All right? Bye.
Bye, guys. Oh, that was a little, no. I was like, is that long?